Welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be ranking the 105 eyeshadow palettes that I tried this year. I did a ranking like this for the very first time last year where I tried 72 palettes. I actually thought I was gonna have less this year. No, not at all. I have done ranking videos on my channel throughout the year. I've been trying to do them quarterly for the ones that I tested, you know, like in the previous months. But this is a full roundup of all of the eyeshadow palettes that I tested for 2023. This does include some palettes that I haven't included in my rankings because the last one that I did in mid-November, I have tested some since then. This is all of them that I tried, you guys. So some of them are repeats. The majority of these have been in my other videos. I laid out all of the palettes last night to put these in a ranking, and it was interesting to see how some of my preferences changed and then some of them didn't, just simply based on like my continued use of these. So anyway, I love doing these videos. They are on the longer side. I hope you guys enjoy. Let's buckle in. We're gonna start from worst to best. So coming in at the very bottom, you guys, is the Winter Ballroom palette from Profusion. I think my husband, bless his little heart, picked this up for me at like CVS or Walgreens as he was going through. He knows, you know, that I'm a makeup junkie, whatever. And he brought this home and I thought it was very sweet, but the quality on this is awful. The packaging is also awful. The color story, not bad, but when I was playing with some of these deeper blue shades, they're just really, really patchy. They diffuse out. All of the mattes that I tried are pretty much like that. It has 3 pressed glitters, a couple of shimmers. The shimmers are nothing to write home about. In fact, some of the shimmers are dry. Like this one out here is just incredibly dry. I almost feel like I see the oils like leaking out. Overall, like pretty bad quality. The more recent palettes that I've tried from Profusion have not been some of my favorite. I want to say that like some of my older palettes that I've had for them were just better quality than this. I feel like their quality has definitely gone down. So this one ranks in the last place. I immediately was like, I'm not going to use this. I'm not going to keep this. So anyway, yeah, that one's the last place. The next one up is also from Profusion. It's the Ruby Gems palette. It's an all glitter palette. Can we even call this a palette? I don't know. I'm putting it in here. This is just kind of monochromatic glitter palette in pink. I like glitter sometimes, so I picked this up. I thought it would be pretty fun, but the glitter formula here is just not that great. The glitters don't stay together. BH Cosmetics makes some actual really good glitter formula where they stay together. Even if you have to use a glitter glue, they still like stay on the eyes pretty well. These just don't. They're patchy because they just don't have that kind of like real stick to them. This again, I feel like is not the best quality that I've seen from Profusion, so not gonna hold on to this one either. The next one I have is from Essence. It's the Blooming Wings eyeshadow palette. Again, not a bad color story. This is for your basic girlies, right? Like it's a pretty mauvey basic tone palette, but most of these mattes, they end up looking so similar on the eyes. Some of these deeper shades just don't have depth. They just won't build real pigment. The shimmers, again, are nothing to write home about. This one right here is kind of like strange. It's a matte with sparkles in it. The sparkles don't translate. Again, just couldn't really build depth with it. Just a lot of the shades ended up looking very similar. And I have some Essence palettes in today's video that I thought are like way better than this, just totally different quality. I don't know why they go back and forth with different labs is kind of what it seems like in some of their formulas and why they're just inconsistent. Like why change if one is really, really good? I didn't care for this, just not a palette for me. And the next one I have, I'm also sad to say, this is the Corn collaboration with Hip Dot. Pretty cool concept. They did one with Evanescence. I also have that one, but I didn't try it, so it's not in today's ranking. But this is just not what I thought it was going to be. All of these shades that are in the mattes look very similar on the eyes. This is the only real shimmer that I can use because this one looks just like that one. Like once it gets to the eye, it looks just like that matte, and this doesn't show up. And it's got 2 giant pressed glitters, one black. Color story is not bad. It's just that all of these shades looked very similar on the eyes, and it ended up being just kind of a muddy mess, which is such a shame because this sold out so quickly. And then I picked it up when it came back in stock and it just ended up being something that kind of let me down. The way that I craft my eye looks may not be everybody's same style. It's just my skill and what I'm able to create. And what I found with this was just kind of like, oh, okay, all of these shades look pretty darn similar on the eye. So this just wasn't a palette for me. Let's get into some smaller, more affordable variety. The next one that I have is the Color Icon from Wet n Wild. This one is in the color story Walking on Eggshells. Not a bad color story, not even a bad concept because it goes from pretty light to pretty dark. But this is not a very pigmented matte, so you don't get a whole lot of depth out of it. It kind of diffuses pretty heavily, like into nothing. decent amount of shimmers. There are 2 shimmers, one lighter, kind of one mid-tone, maybe a little bit darker. Concept of this is pretty nice, but the pigmentation is just lacking here. So it just wasn't exciting, you know? It wasn't. I don't think it's bad if you're on a budget and if you want something to travel with. I just know I have better, more pigmented, travel-friendly palettes in my collection. So I didn't find a ton of enjoyment out of this. And also the shimmers here are like more satins. They're just not as impactful. And I feel like if the mattes are lacking, then I want a little bit more from the shimmers, but I didn't get that. So anyway, that is why this one is where it is. And next up is a 4-pan from LA Girl. They had several that launched this year, and I only picked up this one, which is kind of in the mauve color story. This one is in Feel Good. Again, fairly nice concept, light to dark, mid-tone, and a lighter shimmer, kind of what I like. But this is a shimmer, like a deeper shimmer, which I was using in the outer corner. It's fine. But this one right here, this shimmer is like a glitter. Like it's just glitter. It doesn't have any real base pigment to it. It's nice and kind of wet looking. It's just a little bit of a letdown. I was hoping this shimmer had more base to it, and this could have been another matte. That would have been nice for me. I think this is like my favorite shade because it's just simple. It's blendable. It does everything it's supposed to do. Just overall, like holistically, this palette wasn't just like a high performing color story and palette for me. The next one up is the Empower palette from the Relove line from Makeup Revolution. This is okay. Like it's not bad in terms of matte formula. For me, it's mostly a color story thing because it goes from pretty light to pretty dark, but it has just one deep shimmer, which kind of isn't my preference. Is also Arrived Broken. The mattes aren't anything to write home about. They're on the softer side. They're not like super buildable. So I don't know, you know, I keep trying drugstore hoping for a little bit more than I keep getting. And it's not that I expect like indie brand shadow formula, but I am getting a little bit tainted when I do have indie brands in my collection that make me feel like I know what I'm doing when I put on eyeshadow. That something like this, it just doesn't pale in comparison. The next one that I have is from the Mentos collection from Rude Cosmetics. I tried Rude Cosmetics formula for the first time this year. Wanted to give them a shot. This is the Mixed Fruit Pastel palette. I like this one better than the other one because it's kind of a fun pastel color story, and I think the glitters in this one perform a little bit better. So it's one row of shimmers, one row of mattes, one row of glitters. And I told you guys sometimes I do like to play with glitters. I think it's pretty fun. The pastels in here blend away to nothing. There's almost no pigmentation in terms of the mattes, which is a super big letdown. They just barely showed up on the eyes at all, so they're not really usable. The shimmer formula is a little bit dry. It's hard to pick up on your finger. The glitters, again, probably my favorite thing, and that's why I held onto this, was just for the shimmer formula. But again, it's not my favorite shimmer formula. So no, these weren't great. Overall, I probably wouldn't try Rude Cosmetics again. I also have the Neon palette from the same collaboration. This has the same thing, one row of shimmers, one row of mattes, one row of glitters. The mattes in here perform a little bit better, so that's why these rank a little bit higher. But again, shimmer formula, pretty freaking dry. Glitter formula, just not my absolute favorite. So these are not a love of mine. The next two that I have talked about before, saying that these just aren't my favorite formula, like overall, and probably not a brand I'm gonna pick up a palette again from. This was the Destinations collection from Sephora, and I don't really know what they're called because they don't really say like on the back. This one was just like, I don't know, Florida, Miami, I don't know. The color story in here is pretty, and I think my favorite thing about this is probably these two shimmers down here. But Sephora's shimmers in their palettes, for whatever reason, are so different than their singles. They're on the drier side, they're on the lighter side. These mattes up here and right here didn't even show up. They're so lightly pigmented. I'm not even sure why they created a color story this light. It just wasn't fun because it just didn't show up. It would be so cool if they were much more pigmented and intense. It calls itself a dazzling shimmer and metallic finishes. Travel friendly with a mirror. Okay. The shimmers are okay. Like I said, Sephora literally has some of my favorite like single shadow formulas. Why don't they just kind of put that in a palette form? These would sell much more quickly. I don't find these a good formulation because they're so lightly pigmented. The mattes, again, just look pretty similar on the eyes. So I'm just not a fan of Sephora palettes in general. But when I saw these launch, I thought, I'm gonna test them one more time. These definitely look like color stories that might be good. This one is another Destinations one. This one definitely looks like Florida, so who knows? I don't know what these are based off of. I like this color story a little bit more, but these mattes look literally identical on the eyes. These are more pigmented than the other one, and you can tell that they're just more pigmented and less desaturated than the last one. But again, they look exactly the same. And generally, when you're creating colors that are slightly different, you want a light tone, mid-tone, and deep tone. And this is just like, whew, like one wash of color. My favorite thing about these, again, is the shimmers at the bottom, but they're a little bit drier. I want to say this one is pretty fun. This kind of orangey, fiery orange one. I like this palette for that, but that's it. It's only redeeming quality in my personal opinion. All right, let's move on to another brand. I have two that released at the same time. They're part of another collection. These were the Pop Tarts collaboration with Too Faced. This one was the Frosted Strawberry one. I think I liked this one less than the other one. I think that you get more variety in the mattes in this one. I do feel like this one has a light tone, a mid-tone, and a deep tone, and you get depth. What I don't love is that they don't have a light shimmer. There's just two deep shimmers that are very similar to the mattes. So they just don't have a lot of dimension that they offer. I like that it goes from pretty light to pretty dark. That's fine. I would have liked to see a lighter shimmer, not this matte with like sparkles in it. But also these are very dry. Both the shimmer and matte formula are pretty dry. I just didn't think it was good quality. I didn't think it was terrible, but I didn't think it was that good. The next one is Brown Sugar Cinnamon that I think I do probably want to hold on to this one because I like this color story a little bit more and I like the shimmers in here a little bit more. You get 1, 2, 3 shimmers that actually do look different than the mattes that actually show up on me. So I was getting better looks out of it. But the mattes in here, depending upon which one you're using, like these three just look super similar on the eyes. I think Too Faced formula for me is a hit or miss. I think overall, I'm not a huge fan of their formula in most of their palettes. So I don't know if I'm gonna be going after trying Too Faced's new releases in the eyeshadow palette department. Just not my thing. I think there's such better quality out there. The next one up that I have is from W7. This is the Romanced palette. This is a dupe to the Soft Glam palette. W7 makes a lot of dupes. They create a ton of stuff that is duping eyeshadow palettes. They're duping primers, concealers, foundations. There are some that are like my favorite. Like some of their foundations are fantastic, but their eyeshadows, they're just okay. They're a little bit desaturated. They're not overly pigmented. I don't think the undertone to some of these matches the Soft Glam. I think probably the best thing about their formulation is their shimmers. They're not great. They're not fabulous, you know? They don't like stand out. I feel like I have some from Essence that are just more memorable than this. So while I don't think the palette itself is like bad, I just don't think the matte formula is anything to write home about. Some of the undertones and tones of these look very similar on the eyes. Lacks pigmentation, just desaturated. Yeah, just overall, like meh. It was meh for me. The next one that I have is from Mineral Fusion. This is a brand I found in JCPenney. So all of the stores that were once Sephora, JCPenney has now stocked with like individual makeup brands. So they have like their own like carve out. This was in there. This was pricey. This was a $25 quad from Mineral Fusion. I can't remember what the color story is because this is what the back looks like. You can pop these pans out. I will list the color story in the description box. I will link all of these palettes too, by the way, in case you guys are interested in checking them out. It basically has 2 satins and then 1 kind of shimmer and then this purpley plum tone here. I thought that this was going to be like a prettier shimmer. It ended up being kind of just like sparkly and on the lighter side. And then the matte, it's not like overly pigmented. It's more of a desaturated matte too. And the satins are nice, but for 25 bucks, I want all freaking 4 shades to look good. And I was just kind of disappointed in the way that that glitter turned out. Like it wasn't super high impact. It just doesn't have a ton of base pigment to it. Just overall, this didn't knock my socks off, I guess, is what I'm getting to. The next one that I have is the Cape Town. I have to laugh, you guys, because the ranking video that I did talking about this, I kept calling this Cape Cod. Like the Cape Cod palette. Cape Cod, over and over again. I think someone in my comments was like, oh, how unfortunate you keep calling that Cape Cod. Like, is it really? Like in the grand scheme of things, does it matter if I called it Cape Town or Cape Cod? No, it doesn't. I'm just gonna put that out there. But the quality on this, it's not very good. They're really pigmented shades in the matte department, but they're patchy as can be. I wanted to create like a really fun teal look, but this I was building and building and building, and it was just patchy, patchy, patchy. It was really not good. Same thing with the more kind of neutrally shades. Overall color story is pretty fun, pretty grungy. The best thing about this is the shimmer formula, but it's not consistent. Some of these shimmers are super hard pressed. Then you get bada, like this is super hard pressed, and then you get this super nice foiled shade. And it's okay to throw in different formulas and palettes. That's fun and nice. But the quality on this one, for example, or some of the other ones is dry. It's not good. It's not good to add variety if some of them are just crappy. I love the pigmentation. I just wish the formulation was not patchy, and I kind of wish that the formula on every single one of the shimmers was decent, and it just isn't. It was like that first butterfly one was super lightly pigmented, and then these are really pigmented, but then they're patchy. So it's like they're close. Essence, you're close. You're just not there yet, in my opinion. The next one that I have is from Made by Mitchell. This is the Mini Mitchell Volume 1. It's the neutral mattes, pops of blues, and vibrant pinks. All you need to keep your feet on the ground and your head in the clouds. I got this free with purchase because I picked up some blushes, I picked up a liquid bronzer, highlighter, and I really like all of those. I think they're actually good products. All the blushes I enjoy. In fact, I'm wearing like the liquid contour one now. The eyeshadow palette, not my favorite. Now, the formula is really good. I think the color story is wild though. I don't know how to put looks like these together when you just have 4 very different shimmer shades. Me personally, this just doesn't make a ton of sense. I think having a light, a mid, and a deep tone matte, neutral mattes with pops of color, I just don't find that the color goes with the neutrals, and I just find like, what shimmer am I gonna pair with the mattes? It's just not my preference, but it's not bad quality. So this gets into like color story thing for me. I just want to point that out. I honestly thought that they were pretty decent formula in both the mattes and the shimmers. The shimmers are not like metallics though, not like super high reflection, but they're soft and creamy. So they're nice, they're nice. They're not my thing, but they're nice. And then this next one, I've been watching so many people do declutter videos because I love them. And I've been seeing this palette come up in so many people's eyeshadow declutter videos, and they're just like, oh, this one was great. I freaking hated this thing. This is the Flirty Talk palette from ColourPop. Not only do most of these shades look super similar on the eyes, when it's like all of this right here is super similar. Mine came nasty as can be. I'm gonna show you this Super Shock down here at the corner. It's like, it came totally, I'm just gonna like, might as well just take it. I don't know. Should I just shove it back? I'm not, like, what am I gonna do with this? Oh, I'm just getting it everywhere. Okay, so mine came gross, and it was like this the minute I got it back in February when this launched, because it's part of their Valentine's Day collection. I think the shimmer is a really good formula. I think the matte's a really good formula. My Super Shock came totally defunct, just bad. I feel like if this didn't come totally gross, wet, seeping out of the freaking pan when I got it, I might have thought this palette was a better quality and ranked it higher. It is, again, just the mattes look very similar on the eyes. I love pinks and reds. I guess maybe I don't love the undertone of all of these, and this nasty thing just, ooh, it turned me off, boy. I have another collaboration here. This is the Way of the Water collection from Avatar with NYX. This is mostly a pressed pigment palette, so basically most of these shades say they're not safe for the eyes. There's a bunch of tiny little pans. Most of them are duos, so like one matte to one shimmer. It says even like right here, for face only, not eyes. And it's basically every single one of the shades. I'm never using a pressed pigment that's like not safe for the eyes, not around my eyes. That's just not what I'm doing. They're calling this a color palette, but it's obviously an eyeshadow palette, right? So I liked this collection. I've held on to this. I think the formula is just different. These aren't like powder, they're like putty. I mean, they are powder, they just feel like putty. I don't think these are bad. The color story's fun too. And even the shimmers, some of them are good. Some of them are gross because they're on the drier side, but some of them are nice. A lot of them have glitters to them. I think it was overall okay, but they're not my favorite like mattes. I don't love every single one of these shimmers. Again, some of them are just on the drier side. The quality just didn't knock my socks off. Overall, I think there were some inconsistencies. I have others from NYX that are in this ranking video. I don't know where it is, but definitely a formula that I prefer more than that one. I have another affordable one from Catrice. It's the Rainforest Haze eyeshadow palette. This one was disappointing. It has only 2 mattes in it. No, 3. And I didn't realize that when I bought it from the website. I thought some more of these were mattes. I was getting it probably pretty quickly. So that's partly my fault. But the color story overall, like I just feel like they could have done more here. This is a matte, and this green is a matte. This green, I have tried to build in the outer corner and like diffuse inward. I think that would have been really, really pretty. But this is so desaturated and it is a patchy shade. And the undertone is just, it's too light. It's not as deep as I would have liked. I just would have preferred like a deeper matte if you're just gonna have one single green in here. I just felt like it looked funny, especially on my like undertone. The best thing or the most redeeming thing about this palette is these shimmers. This is where I think this palette excels because this shimmer formula is honestly so good, so good. They have some really fun shades in here too. They're highly foiled, highly metallic shades. They're gorgeous. I just don't usually build like an all shimmer look. See how good like these shimmers are? They're opaque, they blend well, they're super smooth. All of the shimmers are good. I have kept this palette for the shimmers. It is the redeeming quality about this, but I feel like they could have done some more mattes in here and that would have made this palette 10 times better. The next ones up that I have are both from the same brand or same person. This one is the Delectables palette from Laura Geller. What is this one called? Oh, here it is. Earthy Essentials from like the Delectables. I'm not really sure, but this one is Earthy Essentials. It's kind of a greenish brown color story. Overall color story is really, really nice. In fact, the quality of all of these perform really well. For me, it's a preference thing. The mattes are on the lighter side anyway, but I think for like everyday wear, I love having palettes like that in my collection. Something that's really easy, you can throw on, performs really well, you're out the door. It doesn't look like you tried too hard, that sort of thing. You wear it to the office. But I just feel like for me personally, I hate pans like this. I sometimes was like digging my brush in like bam, bam, bam. I don't like what it does to the brush. I don't like how inset these are into the pan. It has nothing to do with the color story thing. It has nothing to do with the quality thing for me. It was 100% the layout of the palette. Literally the way that these are so inset. And I think that's a choice. Right? Like when you have a baked formula, they're poured, right? So a lot of times they fill like components like this, right? Like you have an upside down thing, you're pouring in the eyeshadow or the blush or whatever it is, and then putting it in. At least that's how I feel in this particular case because this is fully cardboard and I don't know this to be anything other than cardboard. So I feel like I understand, but I wish that they weren't inset in the pans like this. I think that it was made like that so they wouldn't fall out. I just personally, functionally, no, it's just not a thing for me. The next one that I have is the Romance in Rose. Same thing, the Delectables, same thing. This one's just more of a warmer toned, neutral toned palette. Again, mattes are good, shimmers are also good. I can't even pick up the shimmers though. That's the bad thing, is that I use my finger to pick up these shimmers and I can barely get my fat little finger into these pans. So again, it just comes down to functionality for me. The next one up is not a quality thing, it's all a color story thing. I think this would have ranked higher had I loved the color story, but for me personally, this is the ColourPop Troublemaker palette. It is just not a color story that I love. I don't love cool tones as much as a lot of people. I just don't think they look good on my undertone. And I feel like they look good on some fair-skinned people much more than they look good on me. That's just how I feel about it. I love the shimmers in here though. This bright silver, fantastic. I also think the mattes are fairly decent. I do find this one gets a little bit patchy on me, depending if I'm going in with an eyeshadow primer or like bare skin. I feel like bare skin, this does get a little bit patchy, so I do like to set my eyes. Especially when I use gray tones or gray undertoned shadows, I like to set my eyes rather than going on bare skin. I think it kind of diffuses out the color a little bit, prevents it from getting skippy. Just not a color story thing for me. I was reaching for this for some of the lighter mattes and then most of the shimmers, but I was ignoring some of these deeper ones. I didn't like the coolness on my eyes, but quality really good. The next one that I have is a palette from LA Girl. It's the Beauphoria 12 color eyeshadow palette. I guess it's the Beauphoria collection. It's called Gaze and Amaze. I don't think this was bad at all. I actually quite enjoyed this, and I had this sitting up on my vanity, and I was reaching in for the matte shade when I wanted a pinky look, and I had a shimmer from another palette that I really wanted to use, like an all shimmer palette, not just another palette. I needed a matte to grab. I was grabbing for these. Same thing with the neutrals. I thought those were good. Although, and I want to point out that right away, because I haven't had this long, this hard panned on me, this deep brown. That was annoying. I like this as a blush. This is a really pretty highlighter and or eyeshadow. This one I was disappointed in right here. Such a pretty like duochrome shade. It's basically a topper of glitter. Would have been cool if it wasn't. It's still nice, just not my preferred thing. Overall, I didn't think it was bad. I don't think the mattes are like overly pigmented. I think they're on the softer side. And it's just okay. Again, doesn't knock my socks off. It is decent though, not terrible. I have two here from Nabla. I love the Nabla Cutie palettes. This one is the platinum one. The thing is with these two that I'm about to go over, there are two mattes in each, or one matte in each palette, so two total, that are so freaking patchy on me, and I can't get them to blend in properly. So this one is okay, but this is patchy and I hate it. Like I couldn't build in the outer corner. It was patchy and it diffused out into nothingville. Most of the palettes that I have from the Cutie collection, really, really good. Shimmers are the redeeming quality. They are fantastic. Nabla does a great shimmer formula. They're usually pretty intense and light reflecting. They all perform really well. It was just that one deep brown shade that I could not get to build up for me. Could not get it to diffuse away. Couldn't get it to stop being patchy. So it kept messing up my eye look because I wanted one transition shade and then one deep shade. So yeah. Then the next one is the Analogue palette. I was really disappointed in this one too, because this shade out here again, super patchy. I feel like these two performed very well, like these two mattes, but they're very similar on the eyes. This one just wouldn't build depth for me. Too patchy, diffused out. But again, their shimmers are the redeeming thing about their palettes, you guys. Look at these. They're so good. Beautiful. This one saves it. I love this shimmer in this palette, and I was reaching for that shimmer all by itself constantly. I love a shimmer shade like that, but again, the deepest shades in here, no good for me. The next one that I have up is from Cara Beauty. I call it Cara, but it could be pronounced Cara. I'm not sure. It's the Capricorn palette. This is not necessarily a quality thing. I think for me, it's a color story thing. Mattes work really well. Shimmers work really well. The shimmers are intense and pigmented. All that good stuff. I think it was a color story thing for me. I didn't dislike it. It just didn't go onto my eyes and I went, oh, that's amazing. That's beautiful. That's great. But I love the fact that it has like neutral tones in here. So you could create a neutral look and then a pinky purple look and then a blue look if you wanted. Like there's nothing wrong with it. Overall, it didn't knock my socks off in terms of quality. It wasn't the best quality ever. When it got to my eyes, it just wasn't like, oh, that's a look that I'm gonna remember. So not terrible, just meh for me. Then I have the Diamond palette from BH Cosmetics. I don't even know if these are still available, but I was trying to build my collection because at one point I was like collecting these, and I usually overall like the quality of these. I think these are good. I think this is a little bit of a weird color story, but this is what I'm talking about, that BH Cosmetics has a bomb shimmer formula. Bomb. It sticks together. It's so beautiful and easy to use. Whereas the other ones, like they are all over the place. You do a swatch and it's like super patchy. These are gorgeous. Like if you're gonna give me a pressed glitter, like I'm okay that it ends up looking like this. I think this color story is a little strange for me. I have a hard time kind of putting looks together that's light, mid, and dark. I bounce around with this palette and I get a little confused, but I think the quality is great. Same thing with this one. This one is the Garnet palette for the month of January. I don't love the way that this tone looks with this tone. I didn't love the way that it translated to the eyes. Again, bomb pressed glitter, like the light shimmer, dark shimmer. I like a lot of things about it. It just, the tones in here, I didn't love the way they translated to my eyes. And that could just be how I see a color story and how I end up trying to develop a certain look on my eyes. Otherwise, I feel like the quality was really good. The next one that I have is the Pinker Times Ahead collection from Too Faced. So I was telling you guys, Too Faced is a hit or miss. I don't always love their formulas. I thought that this was pretty decent, but some of the shimmers, inconsistent toppers and a little bit dry. For example, yeah, see this purple one? It's like a topper. This one's a little bit dry and that was a nice one. So it's all over the place. And this blue one, I feel like it's a little bit dry. It's also kind of a topper. It's not super light reflecting. It's kind of like a satin. It's all right. Like, it's an all right palette. Nothing in here knocked my socks off. Color story is pretty decent, pinky palette, and you get a fairly nice variety in terms of the tones, light. You can't really build depth with this, but I don't think that palette was meant to. It's kind of a fun, like bouncier, pinker times ahead. Just cute overall. A little bit inconsistent for me. Again, doesn't knock my socks off. That's just how I feel about Too Faced. Let's talk about some more letdowns from this year. The first one that I have is from Viseart. I love Viseart quality. I know that they're not for everybody. Some people say they don't like Viseart. I happen to think their mattes are some of the best. Their shimmers are very light and like everyday, but they're decently light reflecting, so I like them. They came out with, I think, one collection very recently, and then earlier in the year, I want to say it was around the May timeframe, they came out with the Lotus collection. So this was one of their Petite Fours. This is the Water Lotus. I put this one where it is because of the color story. I'm usually not into like minty greens. The problem with these were they are so powdery. I just feel like they did not have the same formula as all of their other ones. And I feel like they maybe switched manufacturers or something, because sometimes you can get that if you change where you're going to have the eyeshadows produced. I just felt like these were overly powdery, faded away into nothing. The eyeshadows didn't last on me. And these shimmers, while they were good, I don't think they were as good as some of their other ones. I have two more here. The next one is the Rosea Lotus, also a Petite Four. This one I liked a little bit more because of the color story, but this blended away to almost nothing. I feel like this lasted on me for all of like 3 hours and it totally faded off. These two shades, they basically look the same on the eyes. Really powdery formula. Very disappointed in this. Don't understand, because Viseart has mattes in most of the other palettes that I have that are super beginner friendly. They blend together perfectly. They're very nicely pigmented. They're quite long lasting. The next one that I have is the Sakura Lotus. I liked this one the best because I felt like it performed the best. The shimmers in here were a little bit more impactful. I didn't really reach for this shade, but this one was pretty good. But overall, they just didn't last very long. Again, just super powdery, extremely. There's a ton of kick up that comes from these pans. I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I have never experienced that from any of the other shadows that I have from Viseart. And somebody said in my comments, hey, just put a base down. I tried that. It still, I got the same thing, just not intensely pigmented. Also still very, very powdery formula. The next one that I have is from Hermes. This is just a little quad. So Hermes did drop, I think, 5 different color stories in eyeshadow quads this year. This is nice. This is decent. It has a light tone, a mid-tone, and a deep tone. I don't think the deep tone is like great. I think it's, you know, I think it's decent, but it's on the lighter side, you know, as far as like luxury shadows go. They're usually less pigmented and more desaturated. Most, I feel like luxury shadows are. This shimmer though is delectable. Like, as far as luxury shimmers go, well, just not luxury, just any shimmer in general. It's actually really nice. I think it's good for a more demure, travel-friendly color story if you're not looking for something intense. That's what I think this is good for. And it's really expensive. So, you know, luxury goes where luxury goes in my collection. I feel like I like it a little bit more than drugstore. I feel like that wasn't bad. It just wasn't fabulous. So Prada also launched some eyeshadow quads this year. This one is the Prada Dimensions in 03 is the color story. It has 2 little brushes. I'm gonna just take those out. This has a deeper shade up here. Again, you have a light tone, a mid-tone, and a deep tone. I did not love the red undertone. The tone on this red is like orange. And I felt like in the original pictures, not from Prada's website, but when these first launched, they came to Harrods. And I feel like in those pictures from Harrods, this did not look this orange. This looked like a deeper bluish red, not with too much orange pigmentation. Now, if you look at the photos on Prada's website, I feel like they have definitely been updated. This now looks like a more orange red, but I feel like initially from Harrods, it didn't look like that. I even want to say like I have the screenshot of it or something on the video where I'm trying this for the first time. Really pretty color story. Those are like satin mattes. They perform really well. They kind of feel like cream. Again, the shimmer is really nice as far as shimmers go and in luxury palettes. I quite enjoyed it. I enjoy this color story more than the one from Hermes. Still though, really expensive. Luxury is gonna fall where luxury goes. Nothing necessarily wrong with this. Again, it's just one of those things where it didn't like knock my socks off just entirely. So I have to put these next to where they are. They are from the same collection. I'm trying to find the one that I like better. The same launch. These are the, what are they called? The Eye Library eyeshadow palettes. This one is volume 1, the super neutrals from House Labs. These mattes just aren't very pigmented. These are infused with a ton of skincare. They're supposed to be on the lighter side. They're more desaturated shades. These are biodegradable glitters, which is really nice. And the glitter formula or the metallic foiledness of these shimmers are really nice. And that is what makes up for this palette, in my personal opinion. I just don't, look at this, intense. These are so good. I just don't like a really desaturated shade when you have a light tone, a mid-tone, and a deep tone. Just not my personal preference at all. And I don't need skincare infused in my eyeshadows. It's just not my personal preference. And I get that it could be some people's, but these shades just kept blending into each other. This one was a patchy hot mess. Not my thing, not my thing. And I get it, I understand. In fact, I even watched a video where someone said these are filled from the back. If you dig these pans out, you can see they did not like pour them in. They're filled from the rear so they can change these in mass. Fine, great, not, not my thing. The next one is the volume 2. This is the cool tone version of it. Again, the best thing about these is these biodegradable glitters in these shimmers. So good. This is a weird shade in general for these two shades. It diffuses, it's patchy, it looks smoky and muddy, it's gross. It's not good quality even for a very desaturated shade, in my personal opinion. I think that you can do desaturated shades really, really nicely. I just think these were not great quality. And by the way, they're immensely powdery shades too. They so much kick up in the pan. And I have seen desaturated from luxury brands that don't do that. So no matter what way you kind of cut it based on formula or how these were created or that they have skincare, I just think they need a little bit of fine tuning, in my personal opinion. Although I'm not a makeup artist, I don't craft makeup, I just play with a lot of it and I read a lot, I guess. Let's move on into, I think, the groupings and categories of palettes that they're not bad, but they are ranked where they're ranked for just color story, usually is what it is. I think that's how I feel about a lot of these kind of next ones, even though they're not like 100%, you know? Let's get into a Naked palette from Urban Decay. I actually really like this. I like the artwork. I like these packagings. I like this packaging. I don't mind the small pan sizes. It goes along with their theme. That's what they do. I thought that this quality was a lot better than the other Naked palettes that I've tried. Naked palettes, I feel like they used to be great when eyeshadow formulas aren't what they are today. I felt like this was a step up from some of the other ones that I have in my collection, some of the other ones that I've tried from the Naked line. I thought that the gradient here was a little bit better. I feel like their shimmers are on the drier side, but they don't suck, you know? They still perform somewhat decently, even though they're not the creamiest thing that I've ever tried. They're just not terrible. They have good light reflection. They're decently pigmented. Some of the blues are on the drier side. This one, for example, it's a little bit of a drier formula. I want to say the one next to it is a little bit dry. Yeah, it is just a little bit dry as well. Like these are a tiny bit dry. I don't know about the last one. I'm not even gonna swatch it. I think though, if you're building a blue look, it's missing a blue matte. I would have liked to see a deeper matte in here. Aside from that, I think it's decent. I actually think it's really good. I like the gradient. Not my favorite color story overall, not my favorite formula. I feel like if I'm going for something blue, I have better blues. I feel like if I'm going for something neutral, I have better neutrals, but I didn't think it was terrible. The next one that I have is from J.Cat. It's the Chaotic Element 21 color palette from Traffic Night Bokeh. This is fun and it's good quality. The mattes in here are darn good. I have to give it to J.Cat. I want to say this is my first time testing their formula, but their shimmers are delightful. It's like they went to the same place to have these formulated as Essence because they're so creamy and light reflecting, and every one of these performs really well. Not like the Essence ones where they had some inconsistencies. Some were a little bit drier, some weren't very light reflecting. These ones are like all foiled. Large mirror in here, decent layout. I don't know, it was good. It's not an overly usable palette holistically for me. I think because some of these shades are not like everyday wearable shades for me, but if you're looking for a pretty colorful palette like this, good. And every one of these shimmers I freaking love. They're so, so good, you guys. So this was actually a decent palette. Just like usability, color story was the main factor here for me. The next one that I have is from Rare Beauty. This was a launch this year. I feel like it like went in and out and just nobody paid attention to it. It was the Give Yourself Grace eyeshadow palette. I'm pretty sure this launched this year, but it's not terribly different than the other one that she launched like this. Like it was also very similar. I think I'm thinking of this correctly. I thought though this one was better. I ended up decluttering the other one because I felt like those mattes weren't as good. Those shimmers weren't as good. I actually think these are pretty darn good. They're again kind of on the drier side. They're more demure. They're not overly light reflecting. But this glitter, she did a damn good job on this glitter. And I wear this glitter. I wear this glitter all the time when I use this palette. I thought it was darn good. I did not mind the glitter. I don't mind that it's big and in the center. I feel like I didn't like the glitter in the last one that she did like this. I don't feel like I liked the mattes either. I thought the mattes in here performed better. I don't mind the pan sizes. I thought it was actually really good. Is it my absolute favorite? Is the best quality I've ever tried? No, but it's good. Then the next one that I have is the Futurism 5, I want to say. Yes, the Electro Turquoise from Kaleidos. So sometime this year they told us we're not restocking these, we're gonna get rid of all of these. I had a couple in my collection, I wanted to get one more. I really enjoy this. It makes sense to me when I'm looking at it. Light, dark, so you can build depth. Again, you can use this shade with this shade and this shimmer with these two shades, if that was not too fast that I just said. I actually think this is really darn freaking good. Good quality in mattes. The shimmers are also freaking beautiful. I'm sorry that they're getting rid of these because even though they're 5 pans and then they're in these big packaging, I still think that they're aesthetically pleasing, mirror, sturdy. I love everything about these. I'm so sad. I'm blinding you. This one, the color story though, is just not like an everyday super usable. So if I'm going for a turquoise, like it's nice, like it's good. I would definitely think of using this palette if I'm going for turquoise, but I just don't do that often. I am looking at my pile over there and I don't even feel like I'm making a dent. The next one that I have is the Luxe Eyeshadow Quad from Bobbi Brown. This was a holiday release. I want to say last year. No. For Lunar New Year is what I think it was. So the very beginning of the year in January. This is a satin. This is like a glitter. You got a couple of shimmers. Dude, this is so good. Here's like the glitter. It's just so freaking pretty. And it actually performs pretty well. And I have used this palette all on its own. It's really nice. I'm all glittered up, but this satin here also works really, really nicely. It's a beautiful shade. It's like, oh, it's so good. It's 4 shades in a tiny little quad like this. And yeah, maybe mostly a companion palette, but it's still super beautiful. I love it. It has a time and a place. And you know, you gotta like glitter shades because you're getting I think 1 glitter, 2 glitters in here, but I do, so I like it. I feel like the BOBBI Brown holiday releases are a little bit gimmicky because they are a little bit glittery, but honestly, I keep buying them because I think the quality is really, really good in them. The next one. This is a quad from Tom Ford. It's the Leopard Sun. They don't make this anymore so far as I know. It's okay. Like, it's pretty good. This is my favorite quad from Tom Ford in terms of performance, in terms of color story too. I think the shimmer in here is probably the best of any of the little quads that I have from him. They're desaturated shades, and this is what I mean. If you're gonna give me desaturated shades, make sure they blend well and they're not patchy. This one blends well, is not patchy, is desaturated. It's my favorite quad from him. Again though, on the more demure side, all luxury palettes, in my opinion, are made for more demure eye looks. So I get it. That's what I'm expecting from these. Just my favorite overall Tom Ford. The next one that I have is the In My Element Item Beauty eyeshadow palette. I'm pretty sure you can't even get this anymore. I really enjoyed this. I think Item Beauty actually had some really damn good formulas. I am sorry that they went out of Sephora. I don't know if they're even selling privately on her website anymore. I thought light, mid, deep tone, neutral row. Light, mid, deep tone, you know, cool tone, smoky row. I really liked this color story. Plus all these shimmers were really, really nice. They're surprisingly good. They are really light reflecting, very buttery soft, not dry at all. I really enjoyed this. And I thought that this would be something I might reach into, something that's not going to become my favorite in my collection, something that's a filler basically. Like, oh look, I've collected palettes. I actually loved reaching for this and I thought it was really good quality. The next one that I have is the Whimsical Nudes from Laura Lee. I don't love this packaging. This looks like a stock photo, and I've said this, from like a 1995 Windows screensaver. So does this lettering, just a little bit weird, you know, overall. I don't think the quality of the palette necessarily is bad. I just thought that front was odd. I don't love the color story though. It turns out that the more neutral row is mustardy, and this is supposed to be Whimsical Nudes. This I don't feel like was black enough either. Like, I feel like it almost looked like it had like a bluish undertone to it, so I didn't love that about it. I think they perform well though. I just don't love the color story. The shimmers in here though are delectable. I feel like Laura Lee and Manny use the exact same manufacturer for their shimmers, because they're basically the same formula. They look the same, they feel the same, they perform the same. I like the shimmers in this palette. It is the most redeeming thing about it because I don't love the color story and the tones to some of the shadows. Next, I just realized my next whole stack is all drugstore. So the next one that I have is the NYX Ultimate Paradise Shock color palette. I've had some of these in the past and I've decluttered them because I just didn't like the quality. I thought the mattes were too desaturated, not pigmented enough. They were a little bit patchy and the shimmers were very dry. This one I actually feel was so much better. So much better. There's only 3 in here that are what they call face pigments. The rest of them are called eye pigments. It says kind of right here on the front. So I don't know why they didn't do this in the Avatar one. I actually thought this quality was pretty good. And I liked the color story as well. I thought this performed better than my expectations. So it ranks where it does because it ended up being a palette that I kept reaching for and could wear on an everyday basis. And it was fun. It had some fun pops in there. And yeah, again, the shimmers, probably the best shimmers that I've tried from NYX overall. The next one that I have, actually the next 3, are all companion palettes. So I have the Welcome to Sin City. Hopefully I said that Essence palette right. All shimmer palette. This is the best of their shimmer formula. Really foiled though, very chunky. You have to like that. If you're not into chunky foiled shimmers, you are not going to like these. So really foiled, very chunky, beautiful shades. And this is where I feel like Essence could have done a shimmer formula like this in that butterfly palette. What I feel like they did is went super cheap in the butterfly palette, used a manufacturer or a formula that just wasn't like this. I think that that one was more expensive than this one. So I don't know the reasoning behind all of that. I feel like this was really fun to reach into for the shimmer shades. I felt like they all performed really well. So I enjoyed that. Then the next one that I have is the Flower Beauty Coastal Lights palette. This also released this year. She has 3 other ones. 2 that already came out, 2 more that launched this year. This one is just different. Here's what I mean by that. These, except this one, are all a very light formula. They're not overly foiled like her other ones are. And maybe there was like someone out there that said, hey, I want an all shimmer palette that is more light, you know, less chunky, less foiled. I don't know. I thought that was like the best part about her palettes, was that they were just chunky and light reflecting and just amazing. Whereas this one is a totally different formula. So did somebody ask for that? I don't know. I think that they're good though. Like Flower Beauty knocks the crap out of shimmer formula as far as like more affordable palettes go. So I thought it was good. It's just not better than her old foiled formula, which comes in this one, which is in Garden Lights. Hello. These are the best from the drugstore. They beat the Essence because they're crazy. Honestly, they're never inconsistent. They stay so creamy. Whereas I feel like the Essence ones in the Sin City, they've gotten a little bit drier since I bought that palette. They're not as creamy. Whereas my Flower Beauty ones that I've had for a couple of years, the, what's it called? Sahara Lights and something else, they're still very, very creamy. Part of it is that the package closes. When you have like wet shimmers like this, you know, sometimes air will get in here, so that can dry them out a little bit. This is amazing. This is the kind of shimmer formula that I love from her that I want to keep seeing. I think that's what made these special. So really enjoyed that one. Then I have the Candy Shop palette from Juvia's Place. It's a fun color story and I really enjoyed it. Some of the shimmers are inconsistent though. This is a topper. That's a nice one. This is chunky, which is cool. It's not, I'm not saying it's bad. So topper, good, chunkier, just a little bit all over the place. This one down here doesn't look like the same formula. I have seen better from Juvia's Place. So that's the reason this one is where it is, because I think the color story is fun and I feel like some of these shimmers are amazing. We know Juvia's Place can do it, but I feel like their quality went down in this one, just overall, in terms of like mattes, saturation, the color story here overall. One blue makes it really hard if you like to do work with a lot of mattes, and I usually use 2 mattes at the bare minimum, but a lot of times I will use 3. So for me, it was like, I did try and create a blue look and I was like, oh no, that's a little bit difficult. So wasn't my overall favorite. Not terrible. It's just, you know, when you think like, oh, it was mediocre, that's kind of how you feel about it. Those are the palettes that end up getting ignored for me personally. Then the next one that I have is the Moira Beauty Magic Dreaming palette from the Moira Land series. I think that Moira does a really good quality in their mattes and in their shimmers. I think they are delectable, creamy. I keep swatching shimmers. If you guys see any of my videos, shimmers are my thing to swatch. I don't care about mattes. I mean, I'll talk about them. I just don't care about swatching them. I love the quality in this. This was a color story thing for me because the browns with the blues and purples, I actually think that that's good. Like you can go neutral if you wanted to. You can go purplish blue if you want to, but these ones ended up looking so similar on the eyes that I didn't really love it. I actually think though that I feel more strongly about liking this palette than I did when I originally rated it and when I originally tried it. And I just don't find myself reaching for this one because I don't reach for blues that often. And then the neutrals in here aren't like the greatest. But overall, their quality is just really, really good. So I feel like I don't love the bulky packaging, and that's what keeps me from like pulling this out. We are getting into the section of more popular palettes. So these are gonna be palettes that you guys like know and are more mainstream from here on out. But these are just my personal preferences, you guys. A lot of these are pretty darn good quality. It's mostly a color story thing for me. And then some are just kind of inconsistencies, like in a couple of areas. This one that I have is the Natasha Denona Alloy palette. This is good. It has a light shimmer, a deeper shimmer, and then 3 mattes. I love this ratio. I think the quality is really good. It's a nice travel-friendly palette. I don't always think to reach for this because you get one warm-toned look. So that's really the only thing. I think overall it's really good quality. The next one that I have is the Weekend Vibes Avocado Toast palette from BH Cosmetics, which I think is still available for sale. I picked this up because this is their old formulation and I'm a fan of their older formulation. This is really good in terms of mattes and shimmers. I think that They're pigmented where they need to be. It's a decent color story. Do I reach for greens that often? No. Do I wish there was one deeper green in here? Yes, I do. But that's it. That's really the only thing. I think of this palette when I think of greens. Again, though, I would like to have just one more deepening shade in there. Then I have the Natasha Denona, the Xenon palette. This is not a color story for me. This might be for some people, but I bought this mostly, well, for two reasons. The Yucca palette this year, so good. Not my favorite color story, but the shimmers in there ended up being some of my favorites and really, really unique and good quality from Natasha. So I have been picking up her other palettes because I felt like I was gonna feel that way about the rest of her releases. I don't feel that way about these shimmers. I feel like these two are pretty similar. These aren't the greatest. This doesn't show up on me. These two are very similar on the eyes. Not my color story. Shimmers were not as good to me as like the other ones that have come out. The Yucca, for at least this year's releases, the I Need a Nude was also very good. So yeah. And the undertones here, not my thing either. A lot of them are blue. It's just not my personal preference. Just not kind of what I was expecting. I just told you guys a couple palettes ago, blues are not colors that I reach for all the time. So for you guys who like blue on the eyes, this might be a palette that ranks higher for you guys. It's not for me. So I like the quality, but again, I feel like there's just some inconsistencies here. You know, just like a kind of dry silver shade. Like, it's okay, right? It's okay. It's just okay. That's kind of how I feel about it. So didn't end up loving this one as much as her other releases this year. The next one that I have is another limited edition one. That's the Luxe Eye and Cheek palette from Bobbi Brown. Again, I fall goo goo gaga over these. A bunch of satins. This is basically a highlighter. Could be a cheek shade. This one's a sparkle. It's so good. It's just so good. The thing is, they all perform. If you are looking for something like this, they perform. There's your sparkle, two satins. It's just a beautiful baked formula with a couple of really refined sparkly shades. I happen to just really enjoy that. Plus I like this color story, so I was able to wear this all on its own. I enjoyed that. This palette I went back and forth on. I feel like it ranked so much lower in the earlier part of the year than I feel about it now. This is the 1111 palette from Roen. I thought these were a little bit on the dry side. Some of the shimmers were a little bit chunky, but guess what? As I start getting into singles so much more, I'm like, oh, okay, I get this palette now. I didn't really understand its formulation before I started using singles. I think if you're used to using mattes and palettes and you're not like a single eyeshadow, simple kind of one and done eyeshadow person, which I wasn't before 2023, I don't think you'll get this. But after that, I feel like, oh no, I understand this. This is just a simpler cream formula. So yes, I think it is really good. It's ranking so much higher than it did earlier this year. The next one, I have talked about these palettes and these releases a ton this year, a ton. They were in my favorite of 2023. I have been ranking them based on color story mostly because they all perform the same. None of them have quality issues. This one is the MAC Connect in Color in the Bronze Influence color story. This didn't end up being my favorite because of this shade right here. It's like green. So I was hoping it was like a deep brown or a deep bronzy shade, not green. So I didn't personally love the color story. The mattes here though, blend themselves. They are so richly pigmented, but they blend out perfectly. You can smoke them out really nicely. The shimmers are like wedding ready. That's what they are. They feel like more satins than, they're not like foiled metallics. They're, again, they're just wedding ready. That's what they are. They're basically shimmers that are like satin shades. And that's fine. That's really good. They make these palettes very, very everyday wearable. I just didn't care for this green thing over here. The next one is from the Love collection from Pat McGrath. It's the Mothership Iconic Infatuation. I don't know. I thought it was everyday and wearable. It was just boring. Boring. Boringly expensive too. And I have some more of hers in here, but they rank higher than this one. This was just boring. It wasn't bad. There's no special shades, but these three are very similar on the eyes in terms of mattes. Yeah, and I was just bored with the overall quality of the shimmers. They're some of her like lighter shimmers, if you will. Now the next one is another one from Pat McGrath. This one I actually really do like. This is the Luxe Eyeshadow Quad in Passion Fleur. I want to say this was a like limited edition release. There's another one in here that's also a quad that released from her this year, and I like it a lot better. The reason that I don't love this one more is because this shade right here, just not a special tone on me. I don't think it looks super flattering. But this particular shimmer right here is so delightful. I want to say the other two are not super intense, but this brown one is so beautiful. Like even wearing it all on its own, I kept reaching for this palette for that shade alone. I don't think the matte is a bad quality. I just don't particularly love how plummy it looks on me. So yeah, that's why this one is where it is. The next one that I have is the Chucky X Glam Light. This one is a really, really grungy color story, like super dark. You're not going to get like too many transition shades out of this, but I still think the formula is so, so good. These mattes are freaking amazing. So if you're looking for something really deep, especially in like the burgundies, like this is the palette to reach for. These are intense. They're so, so good, you guys. The shimmers in here are also fabulous. I am such a big fan of Glam Light's shimmer formula, I've come to find. Look how staining these are. And they're not all the same. Like some of them are a little bit more sparkly than others. Ugh, it is just so, so good. Again, not something you can really build like transition off of. You're not getting a really light tone shade, but if you wanted to do just like a fully maroon look or a fully deeper look, like this is a great palette. Shimmers in here also fantastic, fantastic quality palette. The next one I have is from Pastel Roses. This is the Floral Temptation palette. I have to say I was expecting more from this. This is my first time trying the Pastel Roses. I have to say the packaging is just a little bit cheap. Like this looks like it's like separating back here. I don't know if you guys can see that. These mattes are not the best quality either. They're more desaturated. They don't build up very well. They kind of blend out, like they over blend a bit. The color story isn't necessarily my favorite either because I feel like there is missing a deeper shade for like a pink look. And I don't really love this shade on me. It just kind of looks like a little bit of a smoky mess. You've got some mustardy tones. The best thing about this palette is these shimmers. Now they're more loose, like they're definitely a chunkier formula, but they are gorgeous duochromes. They're so, so pretty. Every one of these shimmers is really high performing, really beautiful on the lid. There's only 4 shimmers here, but I love every single one of them. Again, if I'm looking for something lighter and more ethereal, I think this palette is good. I think it's good. It's just not my favorite matte formula. I was a little disappointed in this next one. This is the Jewels and Gem eyeshadow palette from Odin's Eye. You know, the color story wasn't my overall favorite. I think I liked the purple burgundy looks a little bit better. I feel like some of these just didn't pair like great together. The shimmers, they weren't the best shimmers that I've seen from Odin's Eye. Like this one's basically a topper right here. It's a beautiful duochrome. This one's like a topper too. It's kind of like hard pressed. See how it's just kind of a topper? Like this was not my favorite formula from them in the shimmer department. I think the mattes were fine. Just the shimmer formula seemed a little bit inconsistent for me. So you guys let me know if you found that, if you've tried this palette, or if it's just me, or maybe just my palette. The next one that I have is the Too Faced Italian Spritz. So when I told you guys it's a hit or miss on the eyeshadow palettes, I feel like this one was a hit. I thought the mattes were pretty good. They're not the best mattes in the world. Again, some of the shimmers may be a little bit inconsistent. Like I feel like this one's just kind of a softer topper. There's the topper. This one here is pretty nice. The blue again is kind of on the lighter side. This one right here is pretty nice. Let me show you that one. It's just soft and nice. It smells good. It's a pretty neutral kind of fun color story anyway. So I don't know. I had fun with this palette. I don't think it was that bad. I think this was the best Too Faced eyeshadow palette that I tried in all of 2023. And I guess I did try 4 total. So yeah, not bad overall. The next one that I have, I actually really did like, and I didn't think I was going to. This is the Sweet Tarte Cravings palette from the Sugar Rush line that Tarte has. I actually really like this. I legit do not care how I felt about other Tarte palettes in the past. I feel like this one is amazing. These are super buttery, soft mattes. They're highly pigmented. They're not desaturated. They're pretty intense. They're pretty darn good quality. And the best thing about these is these shimmers. Like, look at these. It's so intense. Like all of them are very, very good quality. Let me show you some of these other shimmers. Like they are so good. They really are. They have a tack to them. They're just this really buttery formula. I was shocked. I was not expecting to like this palette as much. I think it's an intense color story. It's definitely like on the darker side, but everything performed really, really well. Shimmers were honestly the best things about this palette. I really enjoyed that. The next two that I have talked really highly about. I love this brand. It is a indie brand out of the UK. It's Unique Beauty. This is their Tribes palette. I want to say, is this just the Tribes or like the Africa Volume 1? I'm not sure. These are little 6-pan palettes that come in cardboard packaging. They always come, when they come in these 6-pans like this, in this like kind of magazine style, with 6 mattes to 6 shimmers. I just love that ratio. If you guys hear me talk about like ratios, I feel like having a light, a mid, and a deep tone, if you're gonna do like a 6-pan palette, is amazing in both the mattes and shimmers. The quality here is fantastic. These blend together perfectly. These shimmers are just freaking amazing. They are so, so good. They are some of my favorite like shimmer formula. They're just soft, I mean, kind of crumbly, but like super intense. They can go on for days. They're all really great. The reason that I put this one where it is because this color story is like primarily dominated by oranges, and it didn't end up being my favorite matte look on my eyes. I think that's what it was. So yeah, I really enjoyed this formula. It was a color story thing for me. I really enjoyed this one a lot more. It's the Volume 1 palette. I think this is Japan. This is amazing. Like these shimmers are special. They are fan-freaking-tastic. They are some of my absolute, like, look at this red. It's so intense. This duochrome here, this like gold one. Oh my gosh. Their shimmers are some of the best formula. Again, this just kind of came down to, I prefer some of the other ones that I have in my collection a little bit more because these reds were not my favorite together. Like I didn't love the undertone of the way that this red in particular looked on me, and I didn't love it with these two. These are more pinky, and this seems to have like a little bit more orange pigmentation in it than blue. So I didn't love them paired with the pink. So I had a hard time like, you know, building depth with it because I didn't like the two colors together. Otherwise, special. Let's move on into the next stack, you guys. This little one is a Believe Beauty palette. It's called the Golden Disco. So don't discount Believe Beauty. I honestly got way more enjoyment out of this palette than I thought I was going to. This looks like an all shimmer palette, at least it did to me, but it says it comes with 6 highly pigmented mattes, striking shimmers, and metallics. So this one here I think is more of a satin matte. I don't think it's a full matte shade, but it's beautiful. And these shimmers, they perform super well. Every one of these is amazing. And yeah, I was coming up with looks with this palette all on its own, and I was like, oh, I didn't know I could do that with this. I freaking loved this thing. The color story didn't bother me. I was using all of these shades either as companions or building looks entirely off of this palette. I was shocked every time I used it. Yeah, don't discount it. If you get a chance to try one of these like 6 pans like this from Believe Beauty, I think it's worth it. The next one that I have is another one from one of the collections I was telling you guys. This is the MAC Connect in Color. This one is in Encrypted Kryptonite. So I wasn't originally going to pick this up because it's a very cool tone color story, and I like to curate my cool tones a little bit. But this went on sale at Macy's, so I picked it up. I don't love the color story overall. I feel like these two kind of diffuse into a little bit of a muddy mess. I have reached into this kind of shimmer shade here that's black. It's really pretty. Like I've built good looks off of this, but this shade doesn't pair well with the other two matte. Like it's okay. It's not my favorite look. These aren't my favorite tones, but again, the quality is the same as the other one I was telling you guys. Mattes are immensely pigmented and beautiful, and the shimmers are like wedding ready. The next one that I have, same collection. This is the Rose Lens palette. Like this one a little bit more. Wish this was a fully matte burgundy instead of like this satin kind of shimmer shade. This one right here doesn't like do a whole lot, so I don't get a really light toned shade that like shows up on me if I want to do mid-tone and deep tone. So a little bit of a formula thing, not necessarily like a color story. Here, if I wanted to do light, mid, and deep, I'd have to mix mattes and shimmers, and the one matte matte kind of doesn't show up on me. So I basically get 2 shades. So quality's still good, just didn't love the formula and like the variety between mattes and shimmers on that palette. Next 2 are from Viseart. I think I missed these ones. I didn't think I picked these up, but these I think did release this year. This is the Petite Foie Lido. This is just, again, a quad. This one is a cool tone purple. It's pretty though. It's pretty. This is not a powdery formula like the other one. These are much nicer. They're very light and they're desaturated, so this isn't like a super vibrant look, but shimmers are great. Overall, I thought this was way better than their Lotus collection. And then next, I prefer this color story so much more. I actually really enjoy this one. This one is the Violet. Really nice color story on this one. This is up my alley because it has burgundies in it. Also with these, a lot of times Viseart makes sure that they put 2 mattes and 2 shimmers, and this one has like a beautiful little duochrome. This is just my kind of like burgundy love story, so I enjoy this one quite a bit, much more than any other of the ones that I tried that released in 2023. The next one I have is another one from Kara Beauty. Enjoy this one so much more than the Capricorn. This is the 70s palette. This is big, and I don't usually like big palettes, but Kara Beauty's formula is really good. So if I get a color story that I like, I just really enjoy her formula. Like I enjoy the palette because I enjoy the formula. I like this because I can go a little bit deep and it makes sense. I can also go neutral. I feel like the shimmers are really nice. If you can see this one down here, it's like a duochrome. It's just really good quality. Like overall, it's not like a full rainbow palette, but you do have some colors in here. I honestly think it's a staple formula. It's a staple palette. Like you just can get everyday looks out of these that are very wearable and useful. Lovely everyday shades. I think Kara Beauty does a decent job. All right, more unique beauty palettes here. They had 2 that launched that were in this style packaging, which I feel like is different for them. This one is Everyday Diva. They do the same thing here. Same number of mattes to same number of shimmers. This is really beautiful. Like again, the shimmers are great. You get this really fun duochrome here. Their formulation is spectacular. This is like a multi-chrome actually. It's like yellow to green to red. Hopefully that's translating. Shimmer formula again is amazing. Mattes are again amazing. This is a super desaturated shade, so it did not provide a lot of depth. These 2 looked very similar on the eyes, and I just didn't love the overall look because this was so mild that it didn't like counteract some of these brighter shades. So I was reaching for this mostly for the shimmers. I will say I was treating it like a companion palette, but formula is really, really good. It was just a color story thing. The next one is their Glow Up palette. This was the same situation, just not a deepening matte shade in here. So some of these tones, like this bright yellow, like a tangerine shade. I wouldn't say this is like bright yellow, but these 2 don't look great with it. There's not an even ratio here. We did lose that. There's 3 mattes and 4 shimmers, but oh my gosh. This one shade here, this duochrome, I think it's a duochrome. No, it's like a multi-chrome. So it's like yellow to green to like orange. Fantastic. Here's another one, kind of similar but different duochrome. Beautiful, amazing. This one also, this chunky one right here, this one is also like super special and foil. Their formulation is great, and so I always almost feel like I need to pick up their new releases or basically any palette I can get my hands on because the formulation is so good. Even if I can't get around the mattes because I don't like the way the mattes look on me, I'll still find enjoyment out of the shimmers. That's how I felt about this palette. I kept reaching for these 2. I'm trying to get it back open. These 2 lighter ones is like inner corner highlights, like over and over again. So freaking good. The next one that I have is the Dark Fantasy palette from Beauty Bay. I really like this. Not a color story that I get a ton of use out of in terms of the mattes, but these shimmers are freaking delightful. Again, kind of like Glam Light. I feel like I found that I really love the Beauty Bay shimmer formula, and I think the mattes are like intense. They're intensely pigmented. They blend really well together though. It's like if you want quality and you wanted these colors, then it was good. It's just maybe not a color story that I find myself reaching for in terms of the mattes, but the shimmers I was dipping into constantly in this palette, pairing it with mattes from other palettes. Overall, just a really big fan of the formula. I think this is my first year trying on Earthly Cosmetics. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was in 2023 and not last year. This one is the Sleepover palette. This one's pretty good. I really enjoy the matte and shimmer formula again. I don't think the shimmer formula is better. at least in this palette, I want to say, than Beauty Bay or Glamlight for me, but it's really good. This beautiful yellowy kind of champagne-y shade right here. I don't know why I'm swatching with my left. I love yellowy shimmers like this. And since I purchased this palette, I have tried another Unearthly Cosmetics eyeshadow palette that is higher ranked than this one because I think that color story is a little bit more wearable for me. I like burgundy tones, but I feel like this was just too purple and I didn't love these two colors together. I don't know, they just kind of made me look like childish. Couldn't really wear this every day, but the formula is really, really good. Then we have some Oden's Eye collaborations, and these all in terms of quality rank very similar to me. They're just put in the order that they're in based on color story for me. So the first one was the Oden's Eye collaboration with Betty Jean, and this is the Planet Spirit palette. Betty Jean is so like brilliant with some of her eye looks. Like she does some really cool stuff with color, and I really admire that. I don't see what she sees when she sees this palette. I see something different, just the way that I like to craft my eye looks. And again, like I'm just over here testing eyeshadow palettes, I want to say within the last 2 or 3 years. So I'm by no means like somebody who's spectacular at makeup or eyeshadow. But for me, I don't see the same color story. The quality here is good, mattes are good, shimmers are good. This one over here is a little bit of a topper, not my personal preference. I prefer a much more intense shimmer, but I think the quality is good. Then comes the Sea Talk palette. I think there's a little bit more here that makes sense to my eye in general. Plus you have some browns in here. So this corner over here, this little quad, you can get something more neutral and everyday. So I kind of like that. Just fun. I get this one just a little bit better. Again, quality is exactly the same. My favorite was the Flora Story palette. I'm so sorry. This one was Lauren May Beauty, and then this one is Makeup Just for Fun. I mean, this is just more neutral. So this one I was grabbing for more because I can wear this on an everyday basis as opposed to like the other two where I feel like I'm not wearing that like into the office, if that makes sense, but I would wear this one. Again, I feel like this one's a topper over here. The rest of the shimmers are pretty impactful. Decent mattes, that's just a lighter color story. Then this one, I ranked this one really, really high. I'm rethinking it, except every time I use it, I absolutely love it. I don't know if it needs to be ranked higher than some of the other ones I just showed you, but goodness gracious, it was just one I couldn't stop reaching for, and every time I wore it, it just looked so soft and like perfect and honestly kind of smoky. This is the Pixie by Petra palette. It's the Rosette Ray. I just loved it. Every one of these mattes looks really flattering on my skin tone and my eye, and I got a light, a mid, and a deep tone shade, and I just love these shimmers. These again are wedding ready. These are everyday shimmers. This is the most boring thing ever, but every time I put a look together, it was like, wow, this is so freaking beautiful. I would say these are like more like satin mattes than like true hard mattes. I don't know. The quality of this one was just, it was just really good. Like astonishingly good looks is what I came up with. The next one that I have is the Juvia's Place Culture 2 palette. I liked this one more than the Candy Shop, and I don't think a ton of people loved this. I did find some issue with this shade because this one was over blending. I couldn't really get it to build up. It was a little bit patchy. But some of these mattes are amazing. Some of them are also pressed pigments too. But the shimmers here are delightful. There are some duochromes in here that are so much fun. And the shimmers here are super wearable. I was wearing a lot of these shimmers like all on their own on an everyday basis. Look at this. Let me swatch this. It's such a beautiful yellow-green duochrome. So soft. I haven't found an inconsistent shimmer in here. Every one of these is so good. This one is still soft. I want to say, is this a duochrome? No, this one is not. Still soft. There's some chunkier ones in here. This one is another duochrome. This one here is like, oh, some of these are so good. I was enjoying this. I think the shimmer formula was really good. I honestly thought this shimmer formula was really different than a lot of their other smaller palettes that I have. The Candy Shop and this one, they went somewhere else. Two different companies ended up formulating these and making them. That's how I feel about it. They're just different. They're not the same. This quality to me is better. Again, some of the mattes a little bit trickier, diffused out a little bit too much, but then some of them are like, so good. So even though this is generally not a size palette that I would like, maybe not even a color story, there's still some neutrals in here, so I thought this was really good from Juvia's Place, I have to say. The next one that I have is from Pat McGrath. It's her most recent release. I want to say this is Sunlit Seduction. Yeah, so this is 11, Sunlit Seduction. Little disappointed with the mattes. As I think a lot of us are at this point, they're pretty similar to a lot of her other ones. I kind of get more of a mid-toned bronzy look here, a little bit pinkier if I grab some of those shades or if I bring the shimmer in. And also the mattes aren't the greatest quality. I had kept this palette out and I was using it to be a companion palette for the mattes when I was using some of the other shimmers from the palettes that I was showing you, but they're not that great. They were a little bit skippy. I don't think they were very highly pigmented either. These three shimmers are the light ones. These are not like baked, but these are what she's referring to as her Astral Blitz shades. This is what makes the palette for me. I think this would rank lower if I had a bigger Pat McGrath collection. I think I have 3 of these size palettes total. So, you know, I'm not like inundated with these tones quite yet. So I think they're really good, but these are freaking beautiful. My favorite one is this pink one. I was wearing it constantly. It is so pretty. It's like a pink and like gold. I don't know, it's almost like suspended sparkles. It is so beautiful. The red one too is just quite amazing. This is a little bit of a different formula. This has a little bit of a tack to it, but they're both so good. It was the shimmer formula here for me that just did it. I don't care if these aren't the same Astral Blitz, they're still good. And I like these other shimmers if I'm looking for something lighter. The mattes just weren't my favorite. The next one that I have is the Danessa Myricks Lightwork Volume 5 IM palette. I knew I was gonna do that. This is an all shimmer palette. It's a companion palette to me, but I loved it more than I thought I was. You read her website, she tells you build looks like going down in a vertical way. Makes so much sense. Light, mid, deep. This is amazingly formulated. Like these are all different. She has in here what she calls a soft energy, a bold energy, and a rounding energy. So it's goes in this order. And then there are, I think, 4 different formulas: Heavenly Halos, Fusion Flakes, Silk Pressed Shifters, Whipped Powder Shifters. No, there's 5. Actually, there's 7. Molten Metals, Suede Shimmers, and Cushion Crumbs. So there are 7 different shimmer formulations, and I think each one of them perform really well, just depending upon what you're looking for. So if you want something more flaky or you want something a little bit more soft, you can get that. I was creating all shimmer looks out of this palette and thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't know how any of the other Lightwork palettes stack up to this one because this is my first time trying this, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Way more than I thought I was going to. The next one that I have is the Cosmos palette from ABH. I really liked this. I know that these two after, what's the green one? Can't remember. I feel like these were hit or misses for a lot of people. I feel like they didn't love these as much as the Nouveau. That's what it was. I really enjoyed these. I liked these just like the Nouveau. The Nouveau also ranked high for me in my 2022 palettes, I want to say. I think these are good. I miss here a little bit of depth, and these 2 shades right here kind of don't build a ton of depth. They're not my favorite looking on the eye, a little bit sandy. I don't know, it's something about the color story isn't like 100%, but it's pretty good. Shimmers aren't the same in every single one of them, but they're still good, and I feel like I like these bigger pans from ABH. I wasn't a hater on this palette. I don't think it's my favorite ABH palette that I have in my collection, but I don't think it's bad. I still think it's kind of fun, especially if you're somebody who likes neutral shades like me. The next one that I have, I like a little bit more. This is also from ABH. This is the Fall Romance palette. I think I like this because I was like digging a ton of grungy shades this year. I just felt like I liked deeper tones more so than I did maybe last year. I liked the way they were looking on me. I've been wearing more greens lately, which I haven't done in previous years very much. Love the burgundies in here. Love this purple. This is just such a beautiful color. I really enjoyed the formulation on this. I don't know. I just liked the deep grungy looks I was getting with it. I don't know why I got into such grungier palettes this year, but I did. The next one that I have is the Pamper Me palette. Again, kind of the magazine style from Unique Beauty. This is all about the shimmers. The mattes in here are super weird. Like for me, this is one of the Unique Beauty palettes that I just don't understand in matte city. Like a blue I would pair with a pink. Like I don't craft my eye looks like that. So for me, this wasn't like great. It was just okay. But the shimmer formula is freaking amazing. And I have dug so hard into this like juicy duochrome down here. So it was a shimmer formula thing for me. This next one actually you guys might think is a little bit silly, but this one really shocked me. This was the Pat McGrath Celestial Nirvana eyeshadow palette in Nude Allure. This is like one matte, which I think is like a satin. It almost feels like a cream right here. The rest of these are shimmers. I don't know why, but this matte here performs so well. I was using this matte, deepening up the outer corner, smoking it inward, pairing it with one of these shimmers, and calling it a day. And I loved the eye looks I was creating. There's just something special about it. It's so good, and I feel like it's better than a lot of her other palettes. Like once these get to the eyes, I can't even describe like how beautifully like juicy these look. I don't know. Against the other ones, they don't look so great, but I'm telling you guys, man, I'm gonna have to like trademark this. It's a grower, not a shower. The next one is the other Unearthly Cosmetics palette that I tried this year. This is the Devour palette. It's the burgundies and the greens. It's the two colors I just loved the most this year when I got into like colorful looks. So shimmers here are great. 3 light duochromes over here, shimmer, like deep shimmers over here, light tone, mid-tone, deep tone green. So good. So pigmented in the matte, so beautiful in the shimmers. And which one was I using as an inner corner? Like both of these I was using as inner corner highlights. I loved this palette. The next one that I have is the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude. I was telling you guys that I just didn't love the Xenon palette and the shimmers. I just loved the shimmers in this one. They were just very everyday. Every time I was creating a look with this, it was like I didn't try too hard when I was going neutral for the office. And so a lot of these rankings ended up being how much use did I get out of the palette, you know? Not just like how much did I thought it was fantastic holistically. It was also like, my everyday life, my filming for YouTube, how much use did I get out of each palette? And I just used the heck out of this one. Not the best release from Natasha in my opinion, but still very good. Next is my favorite Pat McGrath release from this year, you guys. It's just another quad. I hate to say it. It's the Venus in Floors Luxe Quad and Voyeuristic Vixen. This all on its own is fantastic because this shade is so beautiful, smoked out in the outer corner, and these shimmers are fabulous. This one right here was super special. Probably one of my favorite duochromes of the year on the eye. Special. This is just really good quality from Pat. I think this is really high price point, but so long as like the matte really works for me and it gives me kind of a different look, just using this all on its own with the different shimmers, then I'm happy. I loved this. The shimmer was special. It was so amazing. The duochrome translated from like orange to pink actually on the eyes. Not all of my duochromes do, but this was beautiful. I highly, highly enjoyed that one. Now the next one might really shock you. I ranked this #1 in the ranking I did before the very last one, so second to last. So don't judge me, you guys. This is the Kiko Milano Beauty Essentials All Shades of Eyeshadow Palette in Earthsides. It was my burgundy dream, my burgundy neutral dream for the year. These shimmers are all amazing. It was so good. Every look I came up with was so neutral and light and everyday wearable, but I was also getting smoky with it. And yeah, the shimmers are just quite intense on the eyes, like way more than you'd think they'd be in these little teeny tiny pans. So I kept reaching for it. Really enjoyed the way that these tones looked on me and how everything performed and the longevity. So even though it might be a full-on boring Color Story little baby palette, I still got a lot out of it. It's a 9-pan palette in this little tiny thing. So I don't know, I enjoyed it. The next one that I have really surprised me. It's the Huda Beauty Pretty Grunge palette. I thought based on the pictures this was gonna end up looking different than it ended up looking in person. And I think a lot of people are saying like, is it grungy? Oh yeah, it's full on grunge. Like you get a full cool tone grungy side and then a warmer tone kind of neutral side over here. I loved how everything performed. I was using this as a liner. I loved the way the looks looked. I think these two mattes right here were a bit similar on the eyes. I can't remember which one it was or which two. This one looks similar, or this one and this one look similar on the eyes. One of the combinations did end up looking a little bit similar on the eyes. I didn't love that, but every time I created a look, I really enjoyed it. I just liked the variety in here. I liked that one side was cool tone, one side was warm tone. And once I saw it, my like eyes understood, and it understood how to create a palette. I liked the quality too. Really good, really could create depth with it more so than I thought just by looking at it. I really enjoyed it. The next one that I have is another one from Glamlite. It's the Strawberry Shortcake Berrylicious palette. Glamlite is freaking amazing shimmer formula. That's what it comes down to. This is so fun. It is so fun. I'm telling you, the burgundies were it for me this year, and the greens. So anytime you gave me a burgundy and green palette, I immediately was like, yes, yeah. But this freaking little shimmer right here, this is so cute on the eyes. This was so pretty. This one down here is a little bit more chunky. Oh my gosh, look what they do with their shimmers. The way that these translate on the eyes should not be understated because they are gorgeous. Their mattes are intensely pigmented. There is nothing light about them. They're so, so good. Get depth with this palette. I was reaching for the shimmers as companions. Glamlite, I feel like, has stepped up their formula. It is spec freaking tacular. Right, this next one is a teeny tiny little one from Pat McGrath. Did I say that was my favorite? Okay, that's not my favorite. This was my favorite. This is a 6 pan. This is amazing. This is a smoky toned, warm toned dream. I like the ratio 3:3. You gotta have an even ratio. Light, mid, deep. That's how I like it. Like it in my shimmers too, and I get that. This is what I don't understand about Pat. Like her mattes in the big one that I just went over, super skippy, terrible, not pigmented, totally desaturated. These, amazing, beautiful, pigmented, blend together. Don't get it. Is it not the same formula? Or is that like what we're doing? We're going to a different factory to get these smaller ones done than the other ones? Like, I don't know what's happening. I just think the quality in this one is so much better. The shimmers in here are also super beautiful. This was a beautiful warm toned smoky delight and I was reaching for it all the time. Love it. This is the last one. No, it is not. Take that back. It's another one from Unique Beauty. This one is the It's Giving Main Character. This is an all shimmer palette. If you guys like duochrome foiled shades, this is the palette to try. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. Do I even need to swatch these or does like this speak for itself? These are freaking amazing. Yes, 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 yes. The next one that I have is the Natasha Denona Yucca palette, my favorite Natasha release from this year. I'm telling you guys, even if you don't like this color story, you're going to love these shimmers. They are delightful quality. They're all a little bit different and every one of the shimmers is fantastic. So I really liked it. Plus I was getting more into greens and I feel like the greens are just all over the place. They're good. There's just a variety of tones in here. This was my absolute favorite release from her. And I thought it was gonna be my least. I thought I was gonna hate this. I thought I was just getting this to get this and just test it on my channel. No, I loved it. Yes, ma'am. I ranked this the highest palette in my last ranking video. This is such a good palette. This is the Sugar and Spice palette from Glaminatrix. It's weird, grungy color story, but it works. It just works. These like pastel neons are really great with some of these other shades. This is a beautiful deep black shade that you can smoke out. Even works with some of the pastel shades. I don't know why it works, but it does. And then inner corner, look at these shimmers, you guys. These shimmers are amazing. This one right here is like full of glitter and nutmeg, but it is so gorgeous on the eyes. This one in vanilla is my favorite inner corner duochrome highlight. They have a tremendous shimmer formula. Mattes are intensely pigmented, but blendable. Overall, the color story is weird for me because there's a couple of shades I won't use, but it goes light to dark, you know, it's like a gradient here. That's nice and all mattes. Pastels on the bottom row with some shimmer pops and then fully shimmer up here with some duochromes. Like, it may not make sense in the matte department, but everything else about it makes sense. It was such good quality. So good. So good. We are down to the final stack. That doesn't really mean much. It's just how I've grouped them together. This is the Ace Beauté Mystic Romance palette. Color story, amazing. Intensity, pigmentation, also amazing. Shimmer formula, amazing. Everything makes sense here. It's not an overly light color story. It's pretty deep, but if you're looking for something fall and smoky, like this was so good. Everything blended together perfectly. The shimmers were gorgeous. Everything about this was good. This is also my kind of color story too. Like, I love shades like this. I love these burgundies and the right tones of red together and mauve-y shades. This was everything to me. I realized with this palette how much I like the Ace Beauté reformulation. The next one also ranked #1 in one of my ranking videos. This is the Oma Beauty Black Magic palette. Also freaking amazing. Didn't realize I loved Oma Beauty's formulation until I tried one of their Oma by Sharon C little quads from the drugstore this year. Or no, last year. That's what it was. So I picked this one up. Can you tell why I love the color story? The burgundy beautifulness of this. Depth here, different colors in the shimmers. It is such good quality, you guys. Some of these don't even look like you touch them because the mattes here, you need so little to create a look and they're so pigmented and beautiful. This thing is just amazing. It's my kind of color story. I was really into warm tones. So this next one's not a surprise. This is another one from the MAC Connecting Color. It is the Future Flame. I don't know why I'm reading the name. Like I literally know what this one is. This is my warm tone color story dream. The depth that I was able to create with this palette was so fun, so amazing. It goes light to dark. The shimmer formula here, again, is just everyday. It's everyday ready. That's what this is for me. I freaking loved this thing. I think MAC did a really good job with these connecting colors. I will say though that MAC eye products, like their mascaras, have irritated me before. So I think that MAC needs to work on their formulation in terms of like making things better for people with sensitive eyes. I don't ever have any issues with their shadows, but I know that some people do. And I know their mascaras irritate the garbage out of me. Every time I wear one of their mascaras, and they're beautiful, I literally can't stop touching my eyes. It's like my eyes just start watering and whatnot. So I don't know what they're formulated with. I hope if they change them, they don't change the quality because the quality is fantastic. You guys, these are blendable. Most of the tones blend in really well together. They make sense. They create a smoky look and don't look like a contrasted nonsense of garbage on your eyes. So thoroughly enjoyed that one, but my absolute favorite of their releases this year, almost dropped it, was the Embedded in Burgundy. Palettes though, look at these palettes. They're freaking stunning. They're so sturdy and such good quality. This was a cool tone, smoky burgundy loveliness. It was so beautiful. Every time I wore it, I was like, am I good at eyeshadow? Am I? Or is it just this palette? Because that's how I feel. I feel like when I get a shitty palette, I don't make good eye looks. Now, some of my videos, if I watch them back, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? Did I even look in the mirror when I put that on? But then there are some videos where I go, oh, okay, you can do it. You're pretty good, sort of. But then I realize like sometimes the palettes are just really what makes the eye look really good. That's how I feel about this. These last two are from Unique Beauty. Again, it's the Me, Myself, and I palette. Again, the 6-pan palette in like the magazine style. Look at this shimmer, this fiery golden loveliness, this like gold. Oh my gosh. It's mostly a warm tone with a cool tone spin on it with that one like mauvey cool tone shade. This duochromy gold is everything. It's just everything. Sometimes they're just way better on the eyes than they are in the pan. This is just an amazing little... Then this last one here from Unique Beauty was my 100% favorite of this year. It didn't release this year, but I tried it this year. This was the Africa Volume 2, I want to say. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is Africa Volume 2. Everything that I love in like creating like a smoky look, but still having lightness. Even ratio here. Look at this. Look at this shimmer. Like the duochrominess of these is amazing. The wetness of these other shimmers is so good. Oh, this one has tack to it too. Look at this one in Ya. Oh my gosh. That's that kind of shimmer that you could just keep dragging down the arm because it didn't really leave my finger, you know? But the mattes here are just amazing. This is a beautiful, beautiful smoky kind of mauvey burgundy. Just love it. All right, we're down to our top two. These are not a surprise. These got ranked pretty high in some of my rankings. I feel like both of these ended up being #1 for the rankings of the group that they were in. The second runner up goes to Bella Beauté Bar. This is the Star-Crossed Lovers palette. Again, I'm into the pinky burgundy looks. You've got some cool tones in here. You've got some fun, weird like duochromes up in the corner. The quality of this is freaking fantastic. It's palettes like this that make me go, okay, I will not be sleeping. Look at that. It's a multi-chrome. That's actually like orange to purple to green. I will not be sleeping on this brand moving forward ever again. That's what these palettes are like for me. These are chunky. Oh my gosh. You know, it would be one thing if it was just the shimmers in here that performed really well, but it's the mattes and how they looked together and the variety of like pinks, purples, some cool tones, some more mauves. Like you really could take this a lot of different places, and I did. And what is this? This is like an orange. Like pair it with this one. You wouldn't even know it came from this palette, because if you look at it, it's kind of like primarily like this purpley pink palette. Amazing. I will not be sleeping on Bella Beauté Bar moving forward. And the very final one, you guys, is the one I'm wearing on my eyes. I feel like this did rank #1 in one of my palette rankings. This is Nearly Natural. I feel like I've said neutral a couple of times. Nearly Natural palette from Glaminatrix. Burgundies and greens. Okay, that's it. That's all it had to do for me. Also, amazing shimmer formula. It is the one I'm wearing on my eyes today, you guys. I went in with this one as a transition. I put this in the crease. This is in the outer corner, and I used this green all over the lid. I have also done primarily mauve, like burgundy looks with this palette too, like these two out here. Like this is more mauve and this is like a browner shade, but like if you pull in some of the pinks, it kind of pulls out, you know, some of the more mauve tones in these two mattes. I want to say this one is like leaking out here. Yeah, it's a little bit leaking into the pan. I hate when they do this because, you know, it makes them dry out quicker. Sparkly, delicious. The quality of the mattes is again amazing. You get a light, a mid, and a deep tone. You can create a really smoky look with this. You can get a green look, you can get a burgundy look. Some of these mattes can be used as companions with other mattes. They all seem to go really well with each other. It is such a beautiful, gorgeous, also everyday wearable palette. For me, the quality was amazing. That rounds out my ranking of the 105 eyeshadow palettes that I tried in 2023. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I really like doing these. They do get pretty good views on my channel. I would love to hear in the comments from you guys, like, what do you think about my rankings? Which ones did you try that ended up being your favorite this year? I would love to hear. I am going to be doing a video of all the brands that I want to try in 2024. So there's a bunch of different like indie brand shadows that I want to sink my teeth into in 2024. Anyway, I am done for today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm out of here, and I hope to catch you all in my next one. Bye.